feel like finally getting back to me, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like to me, art is in everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection. You can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living and art of it and everything.
I hope that you cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro, because that was dope.
Welcome to the Art and Hustle podcast, a gallery of conversations, a space where you can hear all the amazing stories and life lessons of my guests. I'm your host, LINDALCHEUNG, fashion designer turned multimedia artist, and I want to give you a space to tell your story.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy for you to join me today.
I'm grateful that I've been invited. So
It's been a long time. Oh my God, right?
Yeah, you could say that. It has been a very long time. Like, I still think we look like we looked when we were in high school anyway.
We do. We got our Lorraine West earrings on, right? I see it.
They're a staple in my wardrobe, so I never take them off.
I know. I was like, today I think I'll wear a different one because I don't usually wear these out. So I was like, I think I'll bring them to the podcast today.
Yeah, we could shout out our sister. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited for you to be here. Welcome to the Art and Hustle podcast gallery of conversations.
I love it.
I want you we went to high school together, so introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Besides, we're going to go backwards later and talk about CI.
Oh, yeah. So, well, Sunne-Ryse. You knew me as Sunne-Ryse Scott.
Yeah.
My last name didn't change that much because I went from a Scott to a Smith. So, girl,
that's funny.
Like you would think with a name like Sunne-Ryse, I would have zhuzhed up my last name a little bit more. No, I kept it simple. Sunne-Ryse Smith, though, class of 93/94, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
And right now I do a lot of consulting work, which I'm so proud of. I work with inspirational people who just don't know how to take all of their vision, their ideas, the big ideas that they have, and understand how to turn it into something. And I've found my passion for inspiration. So I can see people's visions. I can see their gifts. And I can also see the parts that they can't see. And I help them to, organize it and launch it and make it fabulous and powerful.
This is amazing. Like, when did you start this?
Oh my goodness. So I started probably the consulting piece about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I have always been, probably since, I don't know, I've never been like a stay in one place kind of person.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of doing consulting work, because it opened up my eyes to the fact that I didn't have to do everything like everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us go through that, right?
Yeah.
We go to school, we get a career, and then we think, oh, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
And then when we don't fit, right? Literally, when we don't fit in it, we think something's wrong with us, right? Yeah. Oh my God, I need to be more organized.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I need to read another book.
Yeah, there's something wrong with me. Why am I like this? I'm not good enough. Like the negative things that we feed ourselves. That's the huge thing right there.
And it drives us, right? It drives us to try to do more of the same thing that doesn't work.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, maybe this isn't me. And
maybe it's not your purpose.
Nope. And for a long time, I was like a square peg trying to fit in a circle, or circle and square peg, whichever version.
So where did you go to school after we left Central Islip High School?
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of my alma mater. I went to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, which I'm so proud of because it's a historical Black college and university. And it is the first of all of the HBCUs.
Really?
So
awesome.
Yeah, it's the first. I founded in 1854.
Yeah.
And it just had some of the most amazing graduates that I'm proud of, like Langston Hughes, Thurgood
Yeah.
Marshall, a
Ooh.
lot of the first prime minister of Nigeria, like Black women, just people
Yeah.
of really powerful positions and places.
Yeah.
And it was a stop on the Underground Railroad. So it was just,
Oh my God, that's phenomenal. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you.
yeah. Being on that campus, I tell people that's where I found my voice there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I left CI a year early. I graduated a year early from high school.
Yeah.
So literally I went from turning 16 to 17, and within 2 months I was on a college campus. I was not ready.
Wow.
I was not ready, but
You're not ready at all.
no. Thank God my older brother was there, because I probably would not have made it. Yeah. But he, you know, I enjoyed, listen, college is to be enjoyed. Let's just say I was enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank God he was there to help you.
Yeah. But listen, I found my way, right? Yeah. And I learned who I was and who I am. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, you know, I know we're going to talk about CI, but for a long time, I never ever felt like I fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably most teenagers probably feel that way.
Yeah.
But I felt that way a lot of my experience growing up.
You felt uncomfortable? Did you feel uncomfortable in your own skin also?
I'm probably more uncomfortable in how I wanted to express myself.
Okay.
Because I think I was an old soul.
Yes,
and,
totally. And I've always felt that energy about you, just like Lorraine and Monique and all of them. Like there's an old soul between like all of us. And I love seeing your images and photos and Instagrams now, because I just see you so like joyful and happy and free that I love it. And that's why I connected with you, or like, we need to speak because I feel it and I wanted to chat with you about it.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful way to explain it, right? If you're an old soul and as a teenager, you're trying to figure, you know, you combine that with trying to figure out what it is to be a daggone teenager in the world.
You're an old soul living in this like young body. You're like, wait a minute, what is happening, right? Oh, but I wanted to say, what stopped me, I think, was a video I saw of you and your husband dancing. Yeah. And I think I pressed rewind and played that video a million times, because the energy between the two of you was beautiful. It was just so beautiful. I just like, I love it.
Yeah. I always say, you know, I found my voice, but I also found my other human. And I met my husband at college.
Yeah.
And he's that person that was like, you don't even know how great you are.
Wow.
You know, and he wasn't like there to tell me who to be. Yeah. He was more so there to like tap me on my shoulder and say, I don't think you see how everybody else sees you. Wow. And maybe nobody else wants to tell you, but I'm gonna be the one to tell you, like, you're that chick. Yeah.
Like you got it all and you just need to do it and you need to follow it and just live in your greatness. And I'm going to support you.
Yeah. And that's that, you know, and this year we celebrate 20 years of marriage, which every time I say that, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we were probably like 10 when we started dating. I'm just kidding.
Well, you guys might have known each other from another lifetime.
Oh, I agree. I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Right? Like, did you guys ever have like a deja vu moment when you met or during your dating?
He had it our freshman year. Yeah. But I was completely ignoring him. I was like, bro, you just not my type. But my sophomore year,
I'm here for school. I gotta study.
You're not it, Kat.
Yeah.
But my sophomore year, my best friend, who actually passed away a couple of years ago from breast cancer.
I'm sorry.
She's the reason why my husband and I are together. We were hanging out in a window of our dorm.
Yeah.
And my husband walks by with a bunch of his friends. And I tell people all the time, he likes when I tell this story. I tell people all the time, I felt like I heard the voice of God say, "Oh, Kyle's going to be your husband."
Wow.
That was it. And
Yeah.
I look over and I was like, I just got this weird feeling. I was like, I feel like Kyle's going to be my husband. And we were cool. We weren't,
Yeah.
there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And my best friend, she looks at me and she was like, well, why are we still in this windowsill?
Oh, you're like, let's go.
She grabs my arm. We run downstairs and we start talking. And he's looking at me weird, like, okay, like, are we done?
Yeah.
And from that moment on, he figured it out eventually. And from
Yeah.
that moment on, we were dating and we've
But
been
did he
together
know
ever
you?
since.
Did he know you when you went down to go chat with him?
He did.
Okay.
He did. Our crews were friends,
Yeah.
but that's all it was. Like, we were friends. We hung out before the parties,
Yeah.
but there was never anything there romantically or intimately.
Yeah.
So,
And then 20 years later.
20 years later, well, 27 overall, but yeah, 20 years of marriage.
Okay. And then 2 kids.
2 kids, a dog, you know, some ups and some downs, some lost jobs, sick family members, you know, the whole bit, right?
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah, life is a doozy there. Now, where are you living right now?
Jersey. Girl, can you believe it? I'm in Jersey.
Well, I'm in Staten Island.
Yeah, like, you think to yourself, how did this happen? How?
Yeah. I mean, like, life just brings you where I guess you need to grow, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to make you grow no matter what. And I got some growing to do, apparently, in Staten Island.
But you know the beautiful thing, Linda? I'm grateful for what Long Island did for us.
Yeah.
But I just truly believe we're meant to explore.
Yeah.
And when I left for college, I think in my heart, I knew I would never go back to Central Islip. Yeah. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but I just knew there was a journey.
Yeah.
That we were all on, that we were all destined for. And we had to allow ourselves to, like, go and be in those spaces, to be the women that we are today.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think how did, like, the multicultural, like, aspect of CI impact you today?
Oh my gosh. All right. So this we talking real deal here, right? So
all real deal.
So this, you know, CI for me in my early years wasn't great. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, tell it like it is. Tell it.
You know, there were a lot of racial undertones, you know, and the elementary school that I particularly went to, you know, my family was one of the only Black families in that school.
Which one did you go to?
Andrew T. Morrow.
Okay.
And Morrow was predominantly white.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think they started busing, because there was a whole busing situation in CI when we were younger.
Yeah.
And they were busing a couple of kids from, like, the other part of Central Islip to diversify the school.
Oh.
But it still wasn't a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so my parents had a lot of run-ins. If you remember my mom, she was not someone who held her tongue.
Yeah.
They had a lot of run-ins with teachers and principals. So I didn't really get to experience the diversity of Central Islip until we got to middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
Those first, what, kindergarten through 6th?
It was too hard.
Was super hard. And it was super hard because I wasn't seen.
Yeah.
I wasn't seen. I remember my kindergarten teacher she's actually the only Black teacher I had in Central Islip. Was she? Maybe there was somebody else, but
maybe in high school,
maybe in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, there had to have been someone in high school. I don't remember, but my kindergarten teacher, she was the first and only one that at least I had at Andrew T. Morrow.
Yeah.
And I remember she was really the only teacher who saw me, right? Who would ever acknowledge, because my mom believed that girls should wear skirts. So I think I wore skirts up until maybe the 4th or 5th grade. And she was the only one that would ever acknowledge how I looked or compliment me on my beauty or my intelligence.
Yeah.
And so I think as I became an adult, I was very, very mindful of acknowledging people, whatever race they were, in the spaces that I was with them. Because I knew what it felt. I knew what it felt like to be
Ignored. Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
you don't want other people to feel that way. So you make it an effort to do that. That's similar to how I treat people also. Like I try to teach my kids. My kids are 11 and 12. And so I'm like,
Wow.
listen, I was like, make sure you just are nice to everybody because you never know like what kind of day they're having or what kind of life they have at home. Or you never know, you might meet them down the road in life. You should just always be kind to everybody.
I agree. And we have to be mindful that there's so many people who have different experiences as Americans in this country, right?
Yeah.
You and I both being first, I think I recall you being first generation American, like myself, and understanding the importance of being able to take up space with who you are. I don't have to conform to someone else's standards to feel validated in the skin and the body that I'm in.
Yeah.
And those experiences. And I think it's probably one of the main reasons why I ended up going to a historical Black college as well. Because I wanted to be in a space where my brilliance, how I chose to wear my hair, how I chose to look, would have been was celebrated and fully embraced, and I wouldn't have to explain it.
Yeah. Exactly. Like you don't have to have those weird looks of like, what are you doing with your hair? Or why? Or can I touch it? Right?
Can I touch it? Yes. Yes. Yes.
So did race get better for you as you got into high school, or still felt weird and different?
I think so. It's so funny. I think it did in terms of my friends, because I was then able to experience myself in a different way because our friend group became like a diverse melting pot of young women. And so it got better in the context of friendships.
Yeah, but you still felt off.
Yeah, I still felt like, I think back to some of our teachers now as an adult, right? When I was young, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But I think back to comments that may have been made in class.
Oh.
That I'm like, you're like, oh, yeah, that it clearly was, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But in the moment, you're young, you're impressionable. You're like, is that what it was? I don't know. I don't want to assume. I remember in particular, one time my brother came home, and one of the history teachers, and this is a true story, one of the history teachers told him that Black people didn't do anything for this country. Yeah. And I look back and I think to myself, the time when we grew up, right? And the area and the community where we grew up. Yeah. We were pushing the envelope progressively.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had just finished talking to Mr. Schiavo on a podcast, and we were talking about race, and he's like, yeah, you guys lived that critical race theory back then,
We did. And we lived it also in the context with some people that weren't ready, that definitely weren't ready to embrace it, right?
And he also said that he was also, as like a side hustle, he was a real estate broker, and he worked with two offices, and one of them told him like, don't ever bring like different color races to this neighborhood. Like you're supposed to steer them to the other areas. And I was like, wow. I mean, like I've seen studies of it where they obviously gridded, this is the area where you're going to put the Black people and the colored people and Asians and Spanish and whatever. And here's where the area is going to be white. So they already had all of this like planned out,
Yeah. Yeah. For years. And so I think what we were able to do growing up during that period of time, particularly, I think about how music, right, was such a big influence. Huge. It was huge in terms of helping us to find our voice, helping us to really be accepting of each other. Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you agree that like the movement of even hip hop or that experience, it broke barriers for some families?
Huge. I mean, hip hop was like pivotal to bringing everybody together.
Yeah.
And it's like a movement. It's a lifestyle. It's like all of it. It's all encompassing.
Yeah, it's definitely all encompassing. And I think that's what stands out to me, right? It stands out to me that when I was in high school during those periods of time, there was this soundtrack to my life that I remember where I was with you. I was with, you know, Courtney. I was with,
or like Lorraine made her mixtapes.
Rocking her culottes, and everybody was like, girl, what do you have on?
Yeah.
Now look at her, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you think about that. You think about, you know, Monique and Dana, you know, us listen to our Caribbean music, our reggae and calypso.
Yeah.
But how it all brought us together in a way that allowed us to be young women in a diverse group, but to also honor and respect each other's diversity.
Yeah. And like back then, I mean, amongst the friends, I don't think we really saw like, oh, you're Black, you're Asian, you're white. It wasn't really a thing for us. No. And not at all. But it's funny, like, because my parents had their restaurant in Ronkonkoma growing up. So I remember the majority of my racism came from the white neighborhood of Ronkonkoma. You know, they were always like, you know, go back to your country. Wow, your English is so good. Even after we came back from college and like helped the restaurant, they'd be like, wow, like, listen, people, like, I'm an educated college person. Like, what do you mean my English is good? What do you expect it to be?
And what did you expect it to be?
Yeah.
I'm American. Like, what was the expectation?
Yeah. It's always like, how come your English is so good? Where did you come from? And I still get those questions. And I don't know how to answer it because I just look at them like they're an alien. And I look at them like,
you should be like, I got it from Long Island. Thank you. Go figure.
From Staten Island and Long Island. That's where I got it.
Staten Island and Long Island.
Yeah,
how about that?
Yeah, and the Jersey. You got to add the Jersey accent too.
It's, you know what it is? The beauty of it is that we didn't even know, right?
Yeah, we didn't know at all. We were just friends. We were just growing up.
Being who we were, perfectly imperfect, right? Yeah. Because we definitely weren't perfect.
Yeah.
And the opportunity though, to just be in those spaces. Those are the things that I remember. So the question that you asked me about, did it get better?
Yeah.
I don't think it got better academic wise, because I didn't see myself in the content of the work. And I didn't really have too many teachers for me in high school that I looked to. I would probably say the music department, because I was really big into music.
Yeah.
So that community of music, I think, was my safe space. And the track team. Yeah. But what worked for me was the diversity of my circle of friends.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree. And it's funny, like when I went to college, I went to Syracuse University first. And it's funny because I didn't realize I had a Long Island accent till I went there. And everybody was like, where are you from? I was like, Long Island, China? I don't know. Like, I came here when I was 3 years old, so people who hear that, they're like, wow, your English is so good. I'm like, well, because I was basically born here, basically, But they heard the Long Island accent. I was like, oh my God. But I didn't hear it until I went home on break and started talking to my friends from Long Island, and then heard it. Then I was like, oh
that's what it was.
That's what it sounds like. I have to fix that.
But it's so funny. I always got growing up. A lot of people, I always got growing up, oh, you speak so white. I was like, what? I was like, I don't know what that means. Because I didn't know what that meant. I spoke the way my parents spoke in my house, right? My mom demanded that, when we answered the phone, even to this day, my husband's like, why are you answering the phone like that? I was like, I can't help it.
You were taught that way, to be proper and to speak proper English.
Yes. My mom was like, no one should be able to tell anything about you by hearing your voice over the phone. Yeah. And I look back, I had this conversation with my brother the other day that I realize now why my mom was so hard on us, right? Because, you're growing up and you're thinking, oh my God, you need to relax. You need to calm down. It's not that deep.
But for her, it is. It was. And she wants you to act a certain way so nobody will judge you for being uneducated, to speak well and to, be accepted. That's the reason why my parents gave us, American names also, to try to assimilate. And
I think for our parents, it was protection,
yeah.
Right? They knew, particularly your parents and my parents, they knew the harshness of being the other.
Yeah.
Right? They knew the subtle violence. They knew more than I think you and I did.
Yeah.
What could potentially happen.
Yeah.
Right? I remember my mom getting so mad at my brothers because they rode their bike. They were leaving from my house, going to the 7-Eleven on Suffolk Avenue. And she was coming back from work and she saw them riding their bikes and she flipped. She was like, "You never ride your bike when I'm not home." And my brothers couldn't understand, but it was as we got older.
Yeah.
She was like, "I don't want you getting stopped by the police.
Yeah.
I know that you're good young men. I know that you're respectful. I know who you are." Yeah. She was like, the police, they don't necessarily in this community care that in that way. And when I think about what she went through as an immigrant mother, a lot of what drove her parenting were her own fears.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Or how she was treated by, the people around her. So yeah, totally. It's interesting. Oh yeah, Dave Harper says hi. He sends his love. But,
I receive it.
But that goes in
now. Really quick, do you know how Dave and I know each other?
He told me quickly, but you tell me.
So one of my mom's closest friends, she was her closest friend, was our neighbor who lived in the house behind us.
Yeah.
Lauren Staley. Lauren Staley is Dave's aunt.
Oh.
So when Dave and Demita moved out to Central Islip, I met them because their mom and my neighbor siblings, and my mom had a great relationship with his aunt. So
so that's the connection. Yeah, because he's always like, "Oh, Sunne-Ryse, yeah, tell her I said hi." He told me once, but I totally forgot. But I know that you guys were like super close.
Yeah. Yes. Dave was in my Sweet 16, dang it.
That's awesome. Do you have a photo? Oh my God, do you have a photo?
Linda, you forgot. You were in the Sweet 16 too. Did you forget
I was
that?
too. Yeah, I totally forgot. See, here's my problem.
Crazy.
I have like really bad memory from childhood because I never told this to any, like, I don't know if I shared it with you, but I had like a really traumatic childhood from childhood to high school. I probably told you. Yeah.
You did. You did.
Yeah. So honestly, like my memory is so bad that I probably blocked out so much stuff that somehow I'll just talk to me. They're like, "Don't you remember?" I'm like, "I don't. I'm so sorry. I don't remember."
I think I actually have a picture in my backyard. Yeah. I'm going to go, when we're done with this, I'm going to go see if I can find it. It might be at my mom's house, but I think I have a picture and Dave's in the picture and you're in the picture.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
But you're dancing with someone else. as soon as I find it, I'm going to send it to you.
Oh my God, that's just, we can add it. We can add it to this podcast edit too.
Oh my God,
if you want. Otherwise, I'll have to take a look at it.
That's up to you. I don't care.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Our hair looked terrible, but I mean,
yeah, like now I feel like I remember. Were we wearing like matching things, or do we have right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Now I remember like vaguely. Now I'm like, oh yeah, it has to be something that we were matching.
Yes, we were. Yes, the guys had on tuxedos. You guys had on like these. I don't even remember. I don't even want to remember what color those dresses were because that's just traumatizing in and of itself. But.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. But yeah, he was telling me stories too. Like, he's got some crazy like police, issues, drama, getting, arrested. But I told him, I was like, thank God your mom was a police officer, because if she was not, he would not have been able to get out of these situations that he got into, because they were trying to frame him, and they probably tried to frame him a few times because he, besides being a Black man in America, he looks like a very tough, strong guy. As he got older, he looks even more like,
Yeah.
aggressive, but that's just who he is. He's got that. The funny thing I joke with him is like, how females, they say like, you got a resting bitch face.
Yes.
He's kind of have the resting fuck off face, So I don't have to bleep that out. I don't know. This is for adults, but yeah, he literally has the resting fuck off face. So like people, he just looks like,
Yeah, but he's definitely a gentle giant from what I remember. So
yeah, and he still is. He totally is. But yeah, he got framed. They tried to like bring him in and sit in a lineup. Like, yeah, just come in. Well, I don't know if they tried to pay him to be in the lineup or something, but he was in a lineup just because they're like, yeah, come in. Like what? And it's funny. So he was behind like the lineup thing. And there's a glass, right? And you shouldn't be able to hear behind the glass because they're in another room, right? So he's standing there in the lineup and he heard.
No way.
He heard. Obviously, how can he hear, right? Because they're in another room, it's sealed.
Yeah.
And he can't see them because it's like, those kind of mirrors. He heard, pick him. And like whatever area he was, either second guy or whatever, he's like, pick that guy, second guy right there. And he's like, oh shit, like, oh no, I can't be here. No, I gotta go. So thank God he stepped away from that, but he would have gotten screwed up so many times if his mom was not a police officer. Crazy.
And I think to myself, how many of our peers did?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a mom like mine or like David's mom in her position. Like how many of our peers did get caught up?
Exactly. I'm like, it's just horrible to know that just because of your skin that they're just gonna, just put them in jail. Like just put as many of them in jail. Like it was obviously a campaign to get them all off the streets, right? It's a campaign to bring like, drugs into the area to try to get them out. And obviously they didn't realize that, they're gonna flip it and take over, right?
Exactly. Worked completely in the opposite direction, people.
Yeah, it went completely the opposite direction of what the government thought by putting, drugs into the area. But anyway, we got on the side note there.
It's all good.
But yeah, this all part of it, right? It's CI, it's racism. I mean, it's all of it.
And so now, it's the beauty of both, right?
Yeah,
so I can appreciate that CI made me who I am, even the ugly parts, right? Yeah. I'm an advocate. I'm a visionary. The work I ended up doing for the good first portion of my career as a psychologist was as an advocate for young Black and brown girls in special education to ensure that the system was not overclassifying them. Yeah. And putting them in special ed. Oh. And part of that was just remembering my experiences, my personal, from that kindergarten to sixth grade, remembering what those experiences were like.
It's traumatic at that young age.
It is. And the thing was, all my parents wanted what was best for us, right? My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was working in corporate America. He was driving to New York City every day. Yeah. They just wanted what your parents wanted for you. Yeah. Right. An opportunity for you to have something different from what they had. So they worked really hard as immigrants. They told us we had to act a certain way and be a certain way because they wanted to protect us. Mm-hmm. That's, I look back, I don't dismiss it. Yeah. Because that made me, when I became an executive director for the largest school district here in the state of New Jersey, I brought all of that with me. Mm-hmm. Right. I sat at those tables with that life experience. And when I had to speak up for people who had voices, so I won't say voiceless. Yeah. They were heardless, right? Yeah. Because they were trying to speak. No one was listening. Yeah. I had the opportunity to like say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. Yeah. Yeah. So I love it for that. I love it for that. Yeah. Well, that's amazing because you can draw on that, the feelings that you had where you weren't seen, weren't heard, weren't supported by those teachers and be able to help people now.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was your experience like? I don't think we ever spoke about it.
No, I don't think any of us really speak about it. So I think this is like amazing that we can, get together 1,000 years later.
I know. Oh my God, I know. Oh my
Yeah, like I
gosh.
don't think I've spoken to you since you left CI, probably, right?
Yeah, no.
1993. What's the quick math on that?
A long time.
Oh,
Almost. Are we going on 30 years?
I don't know. It's 2022 minus
Oh, yeah.
1993. 1993.
Yeah. Next year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy. Because I organized I helped organize the 20th year reunion?
Was
Yeah,
it the 20th or the
I did
20th?
I did the 20th one. That was a bigger one, and that was in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah. As we pause on that
I know,
and
girl.
absorb it. But hey, we still look young,
Look
right?
at that. Look at that. I say Gen X we do it best. So
I
we
think
do.
so. I think so. Maybe it was the water. Maybe it was something in Long Island.
It was the water. It was the hip hop. It was all of that. We were latchkey kids. We were getting off a bus, walking home to let ourselves in the door.
Yeah.
We were, watching MTV Raps. Like it was.
Yep.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't think you look exactly the same.
You know who told me that someone he posted it. I don't know if I can't remember if it was this year or last year. Jerry, remember Jerry? Jerry was such a good
Jerry
friend.
Edwards.
Jerry Edwards.
Yes, yeah, he was helping with the reunion, the 20-year reunion, also.
Yeah, Jerry and I, we were science buddies. Like we had like the worst science teacher, but we were unruly together. We were smart, unruly kids in the class together.
You gotta have somebody to be unruly with, right? I mean, that makes it more fun.
It does. It does. Do you remember what the building looked like?
Which one? The high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've driven past there because Dave's in CI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh. Is it the same? Did it change?
Did I go inside? I did. Yeah, I did go inside because I went to visit Jordan Turk because he's teaching there.
What?
Yeah, so Jordan Turk is teaching there. There's a couple other people who's teaching there.
Crazy.
Caroline Penna, she's teaching there as an art teacher.
Yes.
Melissa, she married Mr. C.
I don't remember Mr. C.
I think he was, yeah, I don't know what he was teaching, but yeah. So I went there to visit Jordan, and yeah, it looked just the same, but I think they built another area near the side somewhere, and I was like walking around a little bit. It was strange. It was very strange. It was like, I don't know.
I don't think I've been out there. My mom moved to Jersey when I had my daughter, so she could be closer to her grandkids.
Yeah.
And my daughter's about to be 17. So
wow.
It's been 17 years since I've been out. Not in Long Island, because I have a couple of girlfriends, but I haven't been out that far.
Yeah.
In a while.
Yeah, since 1993.
Yeah, since 1993. Oh my goodness, that is crazy.
So what were you doing after? Right, you were.
Yeah, so I was executive director for the largest school district in the state, and I was responsible for like the mental health, not special education, but support services for like 40,000 kids.
How long were you doing that?
3 years. And then, leadership changed. The leadership in the district changed. And because I was an appointed position, they let me go. And I tell people all the time, don't ever get mad at closed doors.
Yeah, that's a huge lesson. That's a huge lesson.
They are blessings. They are blessings. And it was the biggest blessing for me because I probably could have gotten comfortable there.
Yeah.
I was able to do what I was doing with my eyes closed. So if I had stayed any longer, I would not have been growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I got let go, it was an opportunity for me to really start to pursue some of my other passion projects. I wanted to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to continue to pursue, being a public speaker, which was something that I would do before. I would do it. My mom is a pastor. I would do it in her church.
Yeah.
But I hadn't really been like, okay, this is going to be me. This is going to be my brand. It's who I am. It's my life's work. And when I had no other choice, because they let me go, and not for a lack of trying, I did try to find other jobs.
You're like, I did.
I did. Nothing. It was literally like I was applying for things I was overqualified for, and people were like, "Yeah, so you're a bit overqualified for this." I was like, "I know, damn it."
You're like, why are you not hiring me? Like, what's the problem? Like, hello? Like, I'll do a great job.
Listen, but it was almost like the universe was like, "Yeah, so Sunne-Ryse, that's not it."
Yeah,
So,
like, no, you have to do something else, and we're not giving you this job, so you're gonna have to go where your purpose is, right?
Yeah. And that's what I did.
How long was your journey?
Ooh, Linda girl. I literally wrote about that journey because I call it looking back, the chrysalis phase. It's that phase between a butterfly and a caterpillar.
Yeah, yeah. And this is in your book?
Yes, it's nasty. It's gross. It's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It is, you're angry at yourself. You're angry at other people because
and
things aren't going.
You're feeling horrible. Now, what's the name of the book? And can we find it on Amazon?
Oh yeah. It's living spiritually woke. 7 weeks to inspired and aware life. So it's my ode to helping people find awareness inside of the mess.
Yeah. And when did you write that? How long did it take you to write it?
It was funny. The day that I decided, I'd put it on my laptop probably years before it was actually written. Yeah. I put the title and it was there, but I just never got back to it. But when I finally put my head to write it, it took me probably a month and a half.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, when I made the decision, okay, stop playing around.
Yeah.
And I would wake up every morning because I have 2 children. I'd wake up every morning before everyone got up.
6 a.m. or something.
You know what that hustle is.
Yeah.
And I would write. I would try to get my writing in before the sun came up. And then when the sun would come up, it was about them, what they needed.
Yeah.
And then literally about a month and a half, it was written. And it was funny because I didn't have a publisher. I had no idea how to do any of that. Yeah. Someone asked me to come to Atlanta to speak at a women's conference. Mm-hmm. I went. And, the whole time I'm sitting there, I have this thing. I was like, oh my God, this book, I got to figure it out. One of the panelists gets up and she's like a top publisher for women of color. Wow. And she starts talking about, many of you in the room have a book in your heart and you don't know how to do it.
You're like, I have it right here. I just finished it.
And from the time I met her in September, that was September when I met her, and everything was done, editing, the cover, everything. And I released it January 2019.
2019. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That was fate.
It was. Oh yeah.
So fate.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. The universe would not have brought me to her had I not taken the step to do my work.
Yeah. Yeah. The steps to getting back to who you are and your authentic self.
That's the perfect word. Mm-hmm. That is the perfect word. I love you, Lorraine. I love watching what the two of you do because that's what resonates with me. Authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you're not fish trying to be a bird. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I was probably doing that for 14 years.
Mm.
So I am actually I'm in my cocoon. I'm in like crystal.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm in that little chrysalis, dirty, gross, slimy stage actually. And I've been in that stage for a while now. I probably slowly, breaking.
Yeah.
Like
The wings are coming out. Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think it's starting to come out, but my journey started when my mom had passed away in 2013. The end of 2013, she passed away, and so she was in China visiting her dad. She was in China visiting her dad because her dad was like super old. I don't even know how old he was, like 80, I don't know, 80, 90 or something. I don't know what it is. Because then, I have terrible memories. I can't remember shit. So, but so he, I think, had diabetes, and he was about to, they wanted to amputate his toe. So he kept calling my mom, like, you have to come, you got to help me, this and that. But my mom was already sick. So technically she shouldn't have been traveling, And she had just moved to Staten Island from Florida. And when I saw her, when she originally moved here, there was something wrong. I looked at her. I'm like, Mom, like, you look really dark, but like not like a tan Florida dark. Like something's wrong with you dark. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not normal. It doesn't look good. I'm like, are you okay? But parents will just be like, we're fine. I'll be fine.
Oh yeah.
And so fast forward to she goes to China, and she has liver failure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So all of us were just like instantly in my head, I was like, she's dying. And instantly, I think I already started mourning because I'm like, she's gonna die. Like she can't get out of this. Like unless you get a liver transplant, which obviously is not going to be an easy thing to do. She's dying, and I just started to mourn her death.
Wow.
And we told my father, I'm like, listen, tell us when we have to go to China. Like, tell us like when she's fading. We're gonna rush to China. But thank God she held on, because we actually left 2 days after Christmas from New York. My brother came from Florida, so me and my brother went, and we flew to China. And 2 days after we got there, she passed away.
Oh my gosh, Linda.
Yeah. So thank God we saw her,
Yeah.
But that whole experience is honestly a book in itself. So besides, like, I have this book that I've been wanting to write, which is my childhood and the trauma and that nightmare situation. Yeah. And then my trip to China literally is another crazy story book of like all the things I went through. The whole China like funeral process, where it's not like a veil. Like in the US and America, it's like a whole veil where you don't really see the death. Like you just see them like nice and pretty, like in the coffin, but you don't see like what happens beforehand, what happened, all the other steps.
Yeah.
So like in China, they just let you see everything. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so traumatized from that also.
Yeah.
Like it's just insane.
Wow.
Insane. I mean, at one point,
what about that brought out your authenticity?
her death made me realize and open my eyes to realize I didn't want to die unhappy.
Woo. Yeah, I just got chills from that.
And I've always said it, like, her death was my rebirth. Yeah. And also, like, what's strange is that when she died and was dying, something came over me, like, where I felt like I was going to faint. Like, she was dying in her bed. I felt like I was going to faint. I felt like vomiting. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, I'm trying to be there for my mom, but I can't stand. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to faint. Like, so I had to step away. So I don't know if her spirit was in the room trying to like talk to me or whatever it was. But I had to step away. And that night she passed away. My brother and dad were there. So my brother tells me to come, she had passed away. We see her like in the outhouse in the back of the hospital, like in a cold, dark, like shack, right? On this like tile table. Like I turned a corner and I see my mom on the tile table. And as we're leaving that area, and like in China, like this, it's like really dark. I think it's New Year's Day because New York, I think we're celebrating because we had called New York to let people know that she had passed away. So it's New Year's Day. We're walking down this dark alley and I see this like dark figure come out of this room. And I was like, that energy doesn't feel right. The energy doesn't, like, to me, it felt like the devil. It felt like something evil, you know. So I saw him, and it ended up that he was like a funeral director or agent. Yeah. But it was like he was super, like, he just had this like bad energy about him. And usually I'm not like that. I wasn't really in tune to my gut feeling at that moment. I wasn't really in tune to like spirits and like trusting my gut. So I just let it ride. I let the whole situation ride. I told my parents, I told my brother, I was like, I don't really like this person. I think he's negative. I think we need to watch out for ourselves because I'm getting bad energy from him. But you know, you tell people you're getting bad energy from people, they're not really going to listen to you. They're going to be like,
no. And plus, you just don't like them. You're sad.
And plus, like, I'm the youngest daughter. No one's gonna really listen to me, you know.
I know.
I'm Asian. I'm young. Like, yeah, whatever. So fast forward, I go back to the U.S. They're still like handling her ashes and all this stuff. I'm gonna bring her back out. I start handling the funeral process in America. And I asked my brother when he comes back, I'm like, so did anything happen with that guy? Like, is everything all right? He blackmailed my family, holding my mom's ashes as ransom.
What?
Yeah. So this is like, oh my God, like this has to be in a book. Like who does that, right? And how does that happen to anybody in anybody's family? Yeah. He wanted like some obscene amount of money to hold my mom's ashes in return for money, because they know, like, if you're from America, they're gonna try to either, you know, blackmail you or take your money or rob you or something like that. Isn't that crazy? But I was right. I was like, oh my God, I was right. Like, oh my God, that's just insane. Like, I just had that feeling about him, and this is what happened.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's just one part. I have like, it's funny, I just told these stories to my friend's husband and he's just so flabbergasted. Like every little story I was telling him, he's like, Linda, you have to write this book. He's like,
you do? He's
like, you have to write it. And he's
that's
like,
such a gift.
Yeah. And he is, you know, I respect him. He's like a smart, very well-read individual. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you need to write it and it's going to be a bestseller. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need to get on that.
Yeah. I think you should too. I think you should too. You know, what stands out to me was when your mom ascended to her next version of what life looked like for her spirit, you became more intuitive.
Yeah.
And look what you became more intuitive about.
Yeah. It's been crazy. It's been crazy. And even after that, when I came back to the US, one of my ex-husband's uncle was walking down the street, and he walks every day because, you know, he's trying to make sure he's healthy. He walks every day around the block. So one day walking home, I saw him and I said, he doesn't look good. Like, I don't know what you would call it. Like, either it's like, he looks like death or he looks like the color. It was like that weird color thing again. I don't know, maybe I could start seeing aura, or I don't know what it was, but it was the energy where I looked at him and his color and everything. I was like, this doesn't look good. And then he passed away like I want to say like a month or two later or something like that, close.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, these things are like lining up. Too many things are like lining up where I'm like, all right, maybe I should start listening to my gut. Maybe I should start listening to these things.
That's one of the reasons why I just never felt like I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have those experiences. I had those experiences throughout my childhood, throughout my teenage years. And I just like, who are you going to tell that to? Right.
Oh, yeah. Like, who's going to believe you? Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I had my mom to kind of share it with, but you know, I'm her daughter. She's gonna be like, oh, okay, you had a
Yeah.
dream. Okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about it. But at the time, you're a teenager. I wanted to be able to talk
Yeah.
those things through with friends, but
Yeah.
the worry about being judged, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're weird, or
Yeah.
you're too holy, or you're too this, were always thoughts that would play in the back of my mind.
So
But
what were some of the experiences that you had while you were younger, like that came true, or
well,
you
I knew
saw?
from the day that my oldest brothers, it was around my sweet 16. I don't know, it was a little before the sweet 16.
Mhm.
My oldest brother's girlfriend at the time walked in the house. And the moment she opened the door and walked in the house, I was like, that's my brother's wife.
Wow.
I pulled my brother to the side. I was like, I have something to tell you. I said, it's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell you. He's like, no, go ahead. What is it?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I have a feeling that like that's gonna be your wife.
Mm-hmm.
They were married like 4 or 5 years later.
Wow. See,
So
like
just
there's like those little things that start adding up, right?
they did. And it was so many, like, you know, I remember one time I was out somewhere. I don't remember where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I don't know where I was, but I just remember hearing voices and they were talking about me in a negative way. And I was like, it was weird. Like I could hear the conversation, even though I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then like, I think I must have gone to school like the Monday, and one of our friends was like, hey, I was out somewhere and so-and-so was talking about you. I was like, yikes.
Oh my God.
And they were saying this, this, and this. And I, you know, in the moment, I don't want to say, well, I knew that. I was just kind of like, oh, okay.
Really? Note to self.
Notes, file in back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was similar when I was sitting in the windowsill and I got this feeling, oh, that's your husband.
Yeah.
So I have a collection of those experiences through life.
See, that's got to be a book.
I know.
Yeah. Like
I know.
It's kind of like the same thing where other people will hear something and be like, you have to write a book. Like that has to be a book.
Yeah. And you know what it is? In so many words, my first book was a way of trying to encourage people to be more aware. Because I think we're all gifted. I think we're all gifted in unique,
I totally agree.
ways.
I feel like everybody has these powers. That is just that when you grow up, you have this barrier around you. Like when you're a kid, you're super like innocent and you see everything. You can probably feel everything, but then like, you know, a wall starts building up and you don't see it. So it's like taking down that barrier and those walls to be able to see your gift.
Yeah. And to trust it, right? So many of us, we don't trust ourselves because we've either been hurt, or we're worried about being judged, or we're concerned about failing, right? Because we don't like the feeling of failing.
Yeah.
But when you trust your gift, oh man, I say all that to say, I just love. Like, I love what you do. I love what Lorraine does. I love like making the connection that you two were these human beings. You didn't just become this human being. You were always this person. You were just evolving into the version of yourself now. Yeah. Right.
So for you to be able to see that.
I remember you being an artist, right? You were an artist in high school. You always had like some type of sketchbook. You were always draw. I remember that, like, of all the things I remember about you, I remember that clearly. I remember I don't remember your brother. I do remember your older sister. I remember your parents' restaurant. And I remember you always, like, you and Lorraine were always in some kind of art class or drawing or doing something. And to see the fact that you like knew this is my gift, no matter how long it took me to get here, that is like, this conversation inspires me.
No, I love it because everything that you're saying is totally the journey I am. in right now to get back to my authentic self that I lost.
Wow.
Because you get married, you have kids, and that's a huge thing for us women because you lose yourself. And
Yes.
so that was like a major conversation I was having people. I think my first podcast where I jumped in and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do it in my bedroom because this is where I'm comfortable. Let me just do it, right? So I actually spoke to one of my girlfriends who I was working with for like 10 years had passed. She had gotten married, had one kid. Yeah, she had one kid, moved to California. And we had this conversation of like losing yourself and losing that gift because
Yep.
she started being an assistant to a motivational speaker.
Mm.
But she wasn't doing anything for herself. She wasn't doing anything in the arts. She's like me, like multi-talented, likes to be, into crafts, making clothes or making art, but she wasn't doing any of that. And I think she stopped doing that for, I don't know, I want to say a good amount, 5 to 7 years or something like that.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So she realized like she needs it to breathe.
Yeah.
It's a part of her. She has to create. She needs to make something.
Yeah.
And so when I had my kids and moved to Staten Island, I kind of fell into that role of who I should be. And I fell into the role of like, what kind of accomplishments I need to achieve to be that successful daughter, successful, woman, successful, whatever. I had to check off all those boxes that I thought I had to do. I thought I would leave, high school, go to college, and I would be happy. I thought I would, graduate and be happy. I thought I would get my job and be happy. So all these things that I thought I would check off to be successful, wasn't lining up to my authentic self. So just like you said, like, don't be upset by when you lose something because you lose a job or you lose whatever, lose a relationship, because it's just going to pivot you and steer to another direction. So I actually lost my job in March of 2020.
Wow.
And I was doing kids fashion design, women's fashion design for licensing products for a very humongous company. And I was doing that. I was comfortable. I was doing that for like 14, like ever since I graduated, 1999, I was doing the same thing.
Wow.
The same type of job. I was doing the same type of job since 1999. And I was at the company for 14 years. And funny enough, like when this company that I was at for so long, I always knew that I shouldn't be there. But you just do it. You just do it because you're like, okay, well, I need a job. I don't want to be that starving artist that, all my parents and everybody said, like, don't be a starving artist. I'm like, okay, so I need to make sure I have a good job and it pays my bills. And I'll just, hustle on the side and do all the things that I want to do on the side. And as a mother and whatever, just do it on the side. Like when they go to sleep, I'll do it.
Yeah. I am really excited because I truly believe this conversation, when you edit it down, this particular piece is going to set a lot of people free, because I know that journey. I'm not necessarily an artist in the way that you are, but I'm artistic in the sense that my words and being in front of people, not for the sake of being in front of them, but the same intuition that I talked about that I have, that's my gift. When I'm in front of a room of people, I literally feel like I'm getting bombarded with intuitive, like,
like
these people here,
and things.
It's like the people in this room are feeling lost. And once I hear that, I'm like, okay, if you're lost, and it's funny because people will come up to me, and I'm actually going to get back into the pandemic, slowed down a lot of my events that I would have.
Yeah.
And so my goal this year is to get back into them. But I would have people come up to me and they were like, I feel like you were talking directly to me. And I would always explain to them, I was like, this sounds great, but I'm not taking any credit for it. Like, being my true, authentic self my kids hate it, right? Because I could be in the grocery store and I'll just like randomly talk to the person at the cash register. And my kids are like, really? You're talking again? I was like, this is a nice person. I don't know I want to know who they are. What do they do? Right. Because I'll immediately be like, oh, you're in college. Okay. This is what you should do. And my kids are like, are we done yet? Can we get out of the store? Is it?
Yeah.
But old Sunrise would have been like, oh, I'm not going to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sunrise of today, I'm like, I don't have time.
I'm going to let you know, this is what I'm feeling and tell you all. See, that's what I mean. Like, I love it because I see it. I see it in your photos. And I think I had this conversation with Dave where I will see a photo and I'll tell you exactly what I think. Right. And it might not be nice. And I'm going to probably, he thinks that sometimes he thought I was being like judgy. And I'm like, it's not about being judgy. I can see the photo and I can see the energy and I'll tell you exactly. I just need to scroll a couple of photos and I'll tell you how I feel about this person. If this is a fake photo, if this person's being a negative or is, you know, whatever kind of feelings I get. And I'll just see it and I'll tell him. He's like, he probably thinks like I'm being like, you know, petty.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm telling you my gut. Like, I can feel it. I can sense it. I can look at the photo. So I see your photos. I see your, like, all of it is just beautiful to me. Because you're sitting in basically your anointed, you know, state that you should be in.
Yeah. I'm comfortable now.
I love it. I'm so proud of you.
I tell my daughter all the time, she's 17, she's going off to college. And I tell her all the time, I don't want her to wait until she's my age to find this type of freedom.
Yeah, her voice,
her freedom to, like, you know, a couple of times she's had to write teachers at the school.
Yeah.
And her father and I are like, we're not going to write it, but you can CC us on the email, but we want you to use your authentic voice. This teacher did something or they spoke to you in a way that you don't appreciate, and empowering her. And many of us, you know, and I know you have daughters, we have to empower them to use their voice now.
Yeah.
Like now, not, oh, when you get into the workforce, when you.
Now. Because I mean, like me growing up, I had no voice, you know? So that's what I mean. Like I'm still in that chrysalis. Is it chrysalis? Is that the? Yeah. So that's my stage where now, like, I'm finding my voice. So here's the other thing. After my mom passed away, I felt I had this voice that kept telling me, you need to do your art. You need to get back to your art, and you need to do big art. Like, it had to be big art. You had to do your art. So I was like, I keep hearing it, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go to AC Moore, just get like 5 giant canvases, put it in the car. And even though I've always done art and I've done all types of art, nothing really spoke to me as being my art or Linda's art, right?
Yeah.
I can draw, you want me to draw this, you want me to copy that, I can do it all. But I didn't feel
ownership of it.
Yeah, I didn't resonate with them, right? So I decided I'm just going to do art because at that point I'm mourning, I'm healing from her death. So I was like, I'm just going to do art. At the point, I'm coming undone of myself and my identity of who I'm supposed to be. So I was just like, I'm just going to do art. I'm not going to try to do art. I'm just going to do it. So it turned into this like intuitive art. And it turned into 3 types of intuitive art that I would have to do. Every single time I would do art, I would have to do these 3 types just because there were 3 aspects of me. One would be like a collage imagery where I would tear it up and collage back together. Another one would be like a modern day Jackson Pollock of all kinds of colors. And another one would be like a texturized tissue paper or spray painting or something, but more monochromatic. So every time I would do one, I would have to do the other to like cleanse myself to get it out.
Yeah.
And once I did like a good amount of those, I was like, this is it. This is it. Like, I think I'm ready to show it now. And when I got to that point, I had to decide who I was going to be in the social media world. Was I going to be myself, LINDALCHEUNG, or would I go under, like in high school, I was always thinking of a company name to go under. Because I wasn't taught to shine. I was taught to just stay behind the line, you know? Yep. So I was always thinking of company name that I can hide behind. So I was like, do I do that or do I just be me? Do I do that and just be me?
Wow.
I finally had to step forward and be like, I'm just going to be me.
Mhm.
I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to put my name out there. And if somebody, it's like putting your soul out there. Like art is like coming from my soul. I put every emotions, feelings, and spirit and everything into those paintings. So I had to be okay, which is my advice to people. You have to be okay to finally, when you put it out there, that you're happy with it. And if anybody says something negative, it's not for them. It was for me.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. That was one of my posts today. I did a funny post that is like, I woke up this morning and I like me.
Yeah.
Your like is okay. Your like is
bonus.
Extra.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's extra. Yeah.
It's appreciated. It's extra, but I have to like me first.
Yeah.
And the day that I realized that it was harder to be the version that everybody else wanted me to be.
Yeah.
Because the word you use this word like maybe 10, 15 minutes ago about breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you can't breathe fully when you are not living your authentic truth.
No, not at all.
It feels like you're putting on someone else's clothes and trying to be someone else. But when you acknowledge, these are my gifts, this is what I do. And when I did that professionally, I have to tell you, that is what was one of the big game changers for me. Right? Because here I have this doctorate in psychology. I worked so hard to get it. Here I have this established career in psychology and education that I worked so hard to create. But on this other side, there was this part of me that, when I would do trainings, it was almost like, not to put it in that way, but it's almost like I was a rock star, right? I would get up there and I would become.
You would feel it.
Yeah. And I would get off and everybody would be like, oh my God, that was so good. Oh, you changed my life. But then I would shrink back into but I got the psychology degree and I'm doing this. So I would always shrink back into the box that I thought I had to be in. And the day that I realized
that's huge.
All of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm all of it.
Oh,
I'm the girl from CI. I'm the girl that went to Lincoln. I'm the girl that has the doctorate. I'm the girl. But when I put it all together, that's me.
I love it. I'm so happy we're speaking today because it all sinks into everything that I'm going through and everything that you've been through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't get rid of the 14 years that you had with that company. Those 14 years will actually make your what's next better. Yeah. And before I kept trying to, when I would rebrand myself, I kept trying to say, oh, well, do I keep this information? Do I get rid of this? And I
love that. It's all of it. You need to just embrace all of you, the negative, the 14 years, from CI, from the teachers who ignored you, like all of it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's such a gift. And this conversation is such a gift.
Huge gift. I'm so grateful and so thankful that we get to catch up and realize that we've been on the same journey, but separate.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I truly believe that this may be part of a bigger journey to move forward.
Yeah.
Right. That there's synergy in your experience and my experience and having a similar voice, but maybe differing versions of it.
Yeah.
And what that means for the collective, right? Not just what does that mean for Linda and Sunne-Ryse, but what does that mean for the people who your art is going to touch and the people who my voice touches? That type of synergy, you think to yourself, man, this is the type that transforms communities and people's lives.
It totally does, because when I started this, it originally started because I love art, but then my art shows would encompass, to me, everything's art. I love any type of art. You want to do music, you want to do painting, you want to vend, you made something. To me, when I did my art shows, everybody was invited. So it became this beautiful energy. My friends would always tell me, there's an energy to the room where everyone just felt accepted, And so I kind of brought that into this because during COVID, I can't have those art shows anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I lost my job, and I was trying to figure out, do I go back to my 9 to 5? Do I start looking for, the same type of job, because that's where my experience is, right? Like, do I start to interview again?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my mentors that I work with was like, Linda, you can't go back. Like, she's like, let's start a business together instead, or something like that, instead of you going back. But thank God so like with the Airbnb, then I started an Airbnb. So, right. So like, thank God at that point I had went to Atlanta, stayed in an Airbnb that was so beautifully like coordinated. The energy was right. The colors were right. Everything about it felt like, oh, this is beautiful. I can do this.
Yeah.
When I start my Airbnb, I'm going to make it like this. Like, I'm going to make it feel like the energy that I felt in that Airbnb is like, I'm going to create that same energy if I ever start an Airbnb to do that. And so when I came back, I was like, I think I have to do it. Like, because there was always been this room in my house that never felt like the right energy.
Wow.
And it didn't feel right. It always felt negative. It didn't feel right. And it didn't feel right until one day I was painting the room to get it ready for the Airbnb. I spilled a whole bunch of paint on the floor. And instead of me getting like so upset that I spilled the paint on the floor, I kind of just said to me, I don't know, the voice said, or I just said to myself, like, I guess the floor wants to be painted, right? So I painted the whole floor. Because the floor was like tile linoleum. So it wasn't really like wood, beautiful floor. So
yeah.
I painted the whole floor. And when I finished painting the floor, I want to tell you, like, the room,
everything changed.
Energy of the whole entire room changed. We're like, this is it. And then you want to add to that craziness. The next day I come downstairs and there was this giant black shelving unit that had put all of my art supplies. Like, I'm a hot mess. Like, I'm like a hoarder of art supplies, right? So I remove all of my art supplies from this black shelf. I've been moving this shelf over here, over here. So like, if anything's in there, it's going to either fall off or, So I walk downstairs after I'm like, to feel the energy of the room, check it out, see how it's looking with all the white. And I see a small dime on the shelf. And it wasn't like a new, brand new dime. It was like an old dime. And I was like, I kind of got chills, and I was like,
where did this come from?
Like, why is there a dime right there? Yeah. I was like, where did this dime come from? Because I had moved everything off the shelves to clean it, to wipe it. And it just like, wow, do I really see a dime right there? Like, are you serious? And it was like, it kind of looked like an antique old dime. I just got chills. So I instantly just felt like, oh, it's my mom telling you, like, this is it. This is what you should be doing. Like, this is, so I always felt like Airbnb and art, like, that's where I'm sitting right now, enjoying my life, doing Airbnb and art. And when I started the Airbnb that June of last year, it's been almost fully booked every single month. Yeah. So as long as that Airbnb can pay for my mortgage, then I'll do some freelance work. And then as long as my bills are paid, if I'm not making extra money, that's fine. I don't need the extra money. I just want to be able to pay my bills. Kids are happy, they're fed, like, just need the food, mortgage. I don't need anything extra. Like, it's not like I'm going out, right? Yeah. And then, so at the point of this was like, Artandhustle started because I couldn't do those art shows anymore. So I was losing that connection with people, but I've met so many amazing people. And to me, like, I love hearing people's stories. I love to hear, like, where you came from, how your childhood was. How did you get to where you are today? How do you stay motivated? How are you the person that you are today? How did you succeed? And I love those stories of struggle to success. And originally I thought, like, oh, me and Dave can do these podcasts together and we can speak to people. Dave's like, no, this is your baby. This is yours. Like, you need to shine here. This is yours. So, and me, like, I'm a shy person. Like, I'm not normally a person to be standing up front. So I had to just keep doing it. It sucked or whatever. And I just keep doing it. And I'm starting to get a little bit more into the wave of it, and I'm enjoying it more because I love these conversations that I have with people, because they're starting to link up, like things that people say start to link up where I'm like, yes, this is it. Like the advice that you can give as we're talking will help somebody else. The stories that somebody says will help somebody who's listening, will help them.
Yeah. It's beautiful because it sounds like you're in the flow.
Yeah.
And being in the flow, I like to say you're not in the chrysalis phase. You're actually flying. You just don't realize that this is what flying looks like for you now.
That's true. That's true.
Right. And part of getting out of the chrysalis phase, you know, I remember when I was in mine fully I was listening to something from Oprah, and Michael Beckwith, he was doing an interview with her, and she asked him this question, and it changed my life. And I always try to share it.
Yeah.
She asked him, when someone's life isn't going the way they want it to go and things are just, you know, she was like, what word would you give them to help them like get through it?
Yeah.
And I was driving up to Rockland County. I was going up there someone hired me to do a retreat for the weekend. I'm driving up, and I was in that space. I was in that very same space. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like I need these things to be more consistent. God, what do you want me to do? Yeah. And he answers her question. And he basically said, stop asking, how do I get through? And you want to ask yourself, if I had to stay in this space forever, who would I need to become to live and thrive here? And it blew my mind because when I asked myself the question, it wasn't the answers that I wanted to hear. When I was honest with myself and I said, okay, God, if none of this changed and I had to exist, who would I have to become? And what came up for me was, I would need to be grateful, let go of my pride. That sucked like hell.
Yeah, that's huge.
That was a huge one.
That's ego, right?
Yeah. And to basically be patient. And the moment I started being grateful, letting go of my ego and practicing patience, I literally became a different person.
Yeah, and I can see it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because there was a part of me that was like, I shouldn't work this hard.
Yeah, like when we're younger, also, we're always like, this sucks. Like, why is it happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why does this person do this to me? Why am I here? Why is this teacher like this? Like, it's always like, why are you doing this to me? Right? Instead of, like, one of the books that changed my trajectory also was a book that my brother gave me, Anthony Robbins. I think it was The Giant Within, or
The Giant Within.
I think it was that one. And literally when I was reading, I don't even think I read the entire book. I read up to one point where it like changed my life. And I was like, oh my God, that was it. Like, it was like, what can you do now to change your mind? How can you change the outlook of everything by changing your mind to like try to see all the other angles of it instead of this one narrow road that you're like, oh my God, you know?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Huge.
Oh my God. We're going to have to make this like part 1, part 2, part 3. Like,
listen, do whatever you have to do.
I think it's going to be beautiful because I feel like all of this is relevant into people's lives and to help others. And I love that you're in this path of helping others by teaching them all the things that you learned.
That's it. Literally, I truly believe that's what I'm here to do. And how I do it, you know, I tell people about there's a difference between purpose and calling. And our calling is what we do. Our purpose is who we are. Our purpose goes wherever we go. But our calling changes, right? So you and I were called to 9 to 5s at one point in our lives.
Yeah.
But our purpose in those spaces never, ever changed.
Yeah.
Just the calling did. And so many of us get attached to the calling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I was speaking to Mr. Schiavo and he felt like he was drawn to teaching as a calling. You know, but eventually that changes, right? Then he went to, I think, Stony Brook and was teaching there, and then
Yep.
he became like a trustee of his library, so his calling changed. And then he started doing podcasts with me. I mean, like, who he would have never thought like to do a podcast with LINDALCHEUng, right?
Right.
I mean, like, I didn't even think I would be doing a podcast, So,
Right.
but me and him are having a great time chatting it up, and like he's able to give his words of wisdom, instead of to the teacher,
Beautiful.
instead of to students. Now he can do it on the podcast and give it to everybody who joins in.
And his purpose never changed.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure whatever he came to leave in the earth,
Yeah.
he did it when he was a teacher. He
He's
did
doing
it
the
at
same-
Stony
yes,
Brook. He's doing it now.
Yeah.
And many of us think that the job is the purpose. No, it's who the hell you show up as at the job.
Tell it like it is, like the CI in you. You tell
That's the CI in me, right?
I know. I was doing the same thing to him on the phone. I was like, I'm sorry, the CI in me starts coming out. I just start having this, yeah. I love that. It's who you show up. Your purpose is you. Show up as you. And when you are being authentically yourself, everything else will start lining up.
Everything lines up.
Everything will line up. The people that you need will line up. The people that will help you will line up. All of it honestly starts to show up. Just like right? Just like you're showing up here today for me, right? All of it. All of it show up.
Oh yeah, all from because I was like, oh my God, look at Linda's freaking cards online. I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff for these women in my organization. Oh, they're gonna love this. It's hand done. Let me and it was like, and for me, it was like, how do I support her authentic giving self? Like I couldn't be there to do anything else. But what I could do is say, whatever that is, you did it well, and I want a piece of it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that.
A LINDALCHEUng original, right?
Cards are beloved by women that I work with. They love the card.
Thank you so much. And that's what I had to do at that point in my life. That's when I had right before kids, and I was still working my 9 to 5. So every 9 to 5 job that I had, I still always did a hustle that was part of my purpose, because it just didn't feel right if I wasn't doing part of my purpose. And even though those were like periods of my time, so I did cards for like 10 years. I still have all of my supplies still of my cards, but those were 10 years of my life. Then I moved on and I started like an Etsy business. Then that was a period of my life, because I'm like, what can I do to feed my soul, but not have all my supplies around, because I have 2 little kids that might eat a bead and, swallow it. I was like, oh, okay, well, I can design digital parties and digital products, and then I'll design on the computer, sends it to you. I don't have to worry about things everywhere. So that's one advice, is that you can always do something at home. So I did like Etsy for a while, and then finally getting back to me, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like, to me, art is in everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection. You can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living, and art of it and everything.
I hope that you cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro, because that was dope.
All right. Thank you so much. So before we end, I'm going to ask you some Oprah questions, just because I love Oprah.
Okay. I do too.
So, what do you think? Well, I feel like we already answered this, right? What do you think the purpose of life is?
The purpose of life is to be someone else's answered prayer. Many times we don't know that our gift or who we are in the world is someone else's answer. Right? Whether that is someone in the grocery store you notice doesn't have all their money and you slip them the $5, right? Or that mother who's struggling to get her baby in the car and she needs somebody to put the bags in the back. I think our purpose is to look around every day and see who has prayed a prayer that they don't even know they prayed, and be their answer.
It's funny. I just wrote something up today as I was posting Mr. Schiavo's thing. And I think I wrote something to the extent of like, every story like something to the fact that every story can help somebody. Like anything that you're like the story that I give you, the story that you're giving me, that story can help change somebody's life.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think the secret to a happy marriage is? So that's a whole nother podcast.
I know. I would just say the one that comes quickest to me is vulnerability. We're usually not vulnerable in relationships, and so we don't show up as our authentic selves.
Okay. What are you most grateful for?
Oh, man. Most grateful for would be my husband. I wouldn't, how I'm able to do what I do is because he believes he was put on this earth to hold me up.
Oh my God, I love it. That's what everybody needs, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody needs. If it's either a partner or a friend or something, like that's what we all need.
Yeah. And he knows while he's holding me up, I'm holding up all the people that I believe I'm supposed to be holding up.
You're holding the whole family up, everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody that you come across.
Yeah.
What's the best life lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Oh my God. It's not them, it's me. I spent a lot of time in my head thinking people didn't like me. And sometimes it was not that I didn't like myself, I didn't trust myself.
That's what I wanted to touch on again, trust. That's been a long journey back to myself, is to trusting myself. That's a huge one that I had to. I think I'm finally getting there, but that was like a huge one I had to realize. Instead of blaming somebody else and not trusting other people constantly, I actually had to trust myself.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I
mean, I can go on and on, but I mean, this has been amazing, and I'm so grateful and so thankful that you joined today. And we're just gonna have to do some more, right?
I'm down. I think you're a wonderful human being. I'm so thankful for this full circle moment. I think we always get what we need. And I don't know whether you needed this, but I definitely needed this. So
I definitely needed this too. And I think this was beautiful that we can reconnect and have a flash down memory lane into Sweet 16 that completely skipped my brain, that went back into my brain again. I'm like, yes, I remember matching outfits again. Oh my God, I love it. I love you, and thank you so much. I love you too. And we definitely will do this again. I'm so happy.
Oh, I look forward to it, sis. I look forward to it. All right. Bye,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Peace.
I went into like finally getting back to me, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like to me, art is in everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection. You can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living, and art of it and everything.
I hope that you cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro, because that was dope.